Hey everyone, and welcome to this $1,400 stimulus check update, monthly stimulus check update, stimulus checks for kids update, and timing on the stimulus. Well, these next 2 weeks are going to be incredibly busy and incredibly important in Washington as they continue to hash out the rest of the details on this COVID relief plan. Now, obviously, most of you guys are tuning in because of the stimulus checks, because of the unemployment benefits, because of all the proposals and all the new plans that are being discussed, talked about on TV, on interviews from President Biden, who just yesterday laid out even more of a reason for this economic stimulus package. Hey everyone, my name is Randy. Welcome back to the Late Night Grind, a new YouTube channel that I just started, and I'm covering these stimulus package updates because it's of great interest to me. So if you guys want to follow along with all these new developments as they come into fruition, as they're being discussed in Washington, go ahead, just click that subscribe button below. Don't forget to tap that bell notification icon. That way you'll be notified when I release a new video. And I just want to say a big thank you to all my new subscribers. You guys have been awesome and doing a great job smashing that thumbs up button, which, by the way, that's actually the best thing you can do to support a new YouTube channel like this. So once again, if you're new to my community, please consider subscribing. All right, guys, well, let's get into it. So yesterday, Joe Biden got in front of the camera and continued to lay out his reasoning for a bigger, bolder, stronger stimulus plan. Obviously, they've been wanting to roll this out for some time now, and it's getting down to the nitty-gritty details. Now, due to the weaker jobs report that recently came out, as well as a few other reports that came out, he basically said this is the time. There's too many hurting families in America. Unemployment is still far too high, and it's looking like it could be several more months, even into summer, until the unemployment rate will start to look a little bit better. That's just speculation, but that's what they said. In the meantime, there's a lot of discussion going on in Washington, both for and against some of the parts of this stimulus plan. So we're going to talk about some of these. First, let's start off with the, basically arguments that are going on right now regarding the eligibility or the targeting of the $1,400 stimulus checks. It's widely regarded across the board in Washington, even receiving a lot of bipartisan support, that it's going to be $1,400 stimulus checks across the board for every adult, for every child, for every child dependent. And the argument right now seems to be around who should be eligible, what income requirements or what income cap should be in place for people to receive these checks. Republicans have been pushing for a little more targeting, meaning that they would like to see people earning less than $50,000 receive these checks, or couples earning up to $100,000 receive these checks. They're getting a ton of pushback from the other side. The Bernie Sanders camp, the more progressive Democrats are pushing Joe Biden, saying, no, you can't lower these income thresholds. There's a lot more people hurting from this because of the pandemic lockdowns, the unemployment, than you think. And he tweeted out, last time I checked, someone making $55,000 a year is not considered rich. And he is right. But the other thing that did already pass was both Republicans and Democrats both voted to say that high-income earners should not be receiving these stimulus checks, as they did in the CARES Act. There was some families that made $200,000 or $300,000 per year actually still got stimulus checks. They didn't want that to happen this time. So they actually voted, and they're going to make sure that that does not happen. However, Democrats are still pushing for those higher numbers, for that income threshold to be at least $75,000 per individual, $150,000 per couple, to make sure everybody in that bracket receives these $1,400 stimulus checks. And I outlined in one of my videos a few videos ago how much you could expect to receive if you have children, because right now it seems to be uncapped as to how much stimulus you could get depending on the number of children. So if you have one child, so if you have two parents, one child, you could be receiving a $4,200 stimulus payment. And if you have all the way up through 5 kids, you could be receiving as much as $9,800 stimulus payment. Speaking of dependents and child dependents, another big part of this are the monthly stimulus checks specifically for kids or for dependents. Now, obviously, these checks would go to parents. They wouldn't go directly to the kids. But nevertheless, both Democrats and Republicans have both laid out plans for what they consider to be a good idea, not just for stimulus, but also to lift a huge chunk of children living in poverty out of poverty. By some economic forecasts, it's expected that both of these plans, regardless of which one would be enacted, would lift almost 30% of the children in the United States out of poverty almost immediately. Joe Biden, in his American Rescue Plan, rolled out a plan that said he would like to see anywhere from $250 to $300 checks go out monthly. This is basically an expansion of the child tax credit program. Because currently there's a $2,000 per child tax credit, so that every year, if you had, say, 2 kids, you would get a $4,000 tax credit on your tax returns. Basically, this is just an expansion of that, and rather than just doing this at tax time or receiving that as part of your refund at tax time, they are putting plans in place to send out checks for these children or to the families of children on a monthly basis. Now, here's the biggest differences between the plans. The Democrat plans basically would add additional spending, would add additional debt to the deficit, and the amount of money going to the children is slightly lower than the Republicans' plan, and this would actually begin in July of this year. At least that's the time frame that they are thinking. Now, on the other side, the Republicans' plan, Mitt Romney actually rolled this out. His proposal was to do basically something similar, expand the child tax credit program, send checks monthly to children anywhere from $250 per kid to $350 per kid, so slightly more than Joe Biden's plan. However, the biggest difference is that in the Republican plan, what they're doing in order to pay for this, rather than adding to the deficit or going into more debt to pay for it, they're basically proposing that some of the tax deductions that we currently get for children would actually be rolled back, and some of the welfare programs, the family welfare programs, would also be dialed back a little bit in order to pull from and send that money directly to the families with children. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of those details that are going to be ironed out. It could actually be a mix of the two plans combined. We will have to see, as that is going to be a major topic this week for discussion. You're probably going to see several videos on it from me as things change back and forth, just because I'm trying to get you the most accurate, up-to-date information. So as it stands right now, this is one of those hot button topics, monthly checks for children, for dependents. You're going to see it in the news a lot more. I'm starting to see it pop up on other websites a little bit more as well. So it's just something to keep in mind. I actually put a poll on my community tab. So if you're on my channel, Late Night Grind, go to that community tab. I put up a poll. Just want to know what you guys think. Just a quick selection. What would you guys rather pick? The Republican plan that would send out monthly checks, but it would take away from some tax deductions and some welfare programs, but it wouldn't actually add any spending or any deficit to the government debt, or the Democrats' plan that it might send a little bit less on a monthly basis to kids, but it still keeps the tax deductions in place, some of the welfare programs in place, but of course it would add more debt. Or if you don't have any children, there's a third option for you guys too. And one more talking point that you're going to start to hear a lot more from are these student loan debt forgiveness programs. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has been out in front of the cameras championing this cause recently, said he wants as much as $50,000 per student wiped out because it's such a huge burden to the kids that racked up all this student loan debt. Now, obviously, that's one of the things that affects some people, but not necessarily the majority. But let me know in the comments below, do you think something like that should be included in this stimulus bill, or is that something that should be talked about in another stimulus plan altogether? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to see what you guys think about that. And I mentioned the next 2 weeks a few times now, and that is because February 16th is the deadline for all the lawmakers to get together, put all their plans and ideas together, and get it to the House of Representatives to vote on. Nancy Pelosi has said several times now that they are looking at either the 16th or the 17th to get this bill written and finalized and voted on so they can then hand it off to the Senate. And that's where all eyes are going to be on Joe Manchin, who's the centrist Democrat, who's talked about multiple things that he's not necessarily in favor of in this spending plan. So if he wants to hold this whole thing up, he could very well hold this whole thing up. It doesn't sound like he is yet, but that's a possibility. I appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Tap that bell notification so that you'll be notified when I put out a new video. Follow along as these plans develop. I appreciate you watching, and don't forget to smash that thumbs up button. I'll see you guys on the next video.